So the first thing I want to ask you is, when did you know you wanted to be an actor?
Uh, wow, that's a good question. I started when I was about 8 years old, but it wasn't something that I didn't dream about being an actor when I was a kid. And actually, I wanted to buy a motorcycle, and my mother wouldn't let me buy one, and I thought it was because we didn't have the money. She just didn't want me to have one. So I figured if I start modeling, um, I'll be able to make my own money to get the motorcycle. And so my mom came home from work one day, and there were a bunch of messages on our answering machine. That's back when people had answering machines. People were calling back to confirm appointments that I'd made when I came home from school. I started calling people in the phone book, and she she was kind of tripped out about it. She was like, what are you what are you doing? Is this something you really want to do? Are you serious about this, or is this just gonna be some other kind of little hobby you pick up and let go. And I was, I lied. I was like, yeah, I'm really serious. I really want to do this because all I was thinking was that I was going to get a motorcycle out of the deal. And that's actually how it started. That's actually how the whole thing started. It turned out that I guess I guess a few people thought I was good at it, so I kept doing it. You know.
Wow. Yeah, the motorcycle, that we talked about that before, and like you're really like motorcycles, man.
Yeah, it's strange, man. I never considered myself to be a biker, but I guess somebody explained this to me when I was down in New Orleans. It's funny how people think about common sense stuff, but if your only mode of transportation is a motorcycle, then you're a biker, I guess. And I hadn't thought of myself like that before, but I guess so. Yeah, I guess I'm a biker now.
And when did you find out about Welcome Freshmen? Because this was around the time Nickelodeon Studios opened. It was like a first casting call. Did you just audition?
Yeah, I was in New York before the studios even opened in Florida. We were still up in New York. And when they opened up, I've been working for a little while by that time. I've been working professionally for a little while by that time. When they opened up, uh, at that point, I was starting to take it. As a kid, I think I took it a little bit more seriously when I was younger than I did as I got older. Because when the studios opened up, I was like, I want to do a TV show. I want a TV show. So we got to go to Florida because that's where the studios. And so we went down there, and I was down there maybe about a year before the Welcome Freshman auditions came around. And by then I had an agent. I was with Doug Christensen. Doug, what's up? Dude, this is great. I love you, man. I miss you. I haven't spoken to you forever, man. Hit me up. Hit me up. So Doug was a great agent, and the Welcome Freshman auditions came by, and he was like, you got to go do this thing. Go take a shot. So we did that. I was 13, maybe. Yeah.
13? Yeah, and like I told you like yesterday, Howie Durrell from Backstreet Boys originally got your part of Kevin St. James.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, man, I was tripping when you told me that. I didn't even know that he'd auditioned for it. Like I didn't, no clue whatsoever until you mentioned it. That's pretty funny. Ha ha, Howie. Well, I mean, I guess we know who got the last laugh there.
I guess so. What was your first impression of the studio when you got there?
um, I remember being more impressed, or I guess I'm not really impressed. I was more excited about the park than the studio because I'd seen a bunch of studios at that point. I'd already been on a lot of production sets for a bunch of different kinds of productions. Like I did national commercials, I did a bunch of print work. So the studios were kind of, that was more like stuff I'd seen before. But the park, I was pretty excited about. I was, like 13 and it's Universal Studios, like, and that's where I'm going to be working. It was pretty cool. I was like, wow, I wonder if they'll let me ride the rides for free. That was the only thing I was thinking about.
Hey, and you eventually did anyway, because you technically got to work there in a way.
Oh yeah, yeah, we rode everything for free all the time. And then, we could get to the front of the line because the people at the park knew we were working and we didn't have a lot of time. So
Mm.
we would we'd be on our lunch hour and be like, let's go ride Hanna-Barbera and Back to the Future. And, we go run out there and it would be like a mob scene for a minute. As all the kids and then people saw us going in, we'd sign a couple autographs, take some pictures, and that was kind of like our currency. Like it made skipping the line okay if we signed autographs and took a couple pictures. People didn't seem upset about that, so it was good, and it worked out nicely for us. We had a good time.
Did you have a favorite ride there?
Hmm?
a favorite ride at the Universal Studios, like to go on and ride?
Like a roller coaster, you mean, type
Yeah,
thing?
like that type of thing, an attraction.
They were morely. I mean, there weren't really roller coasters per se there at the time. There was let's see, there was Hanna-Barbera, there was Back to the Future. There was most of the attractions there were movie or TV show based, and not so much thrill rides. Well, they had a very cool stunt show. They had explosions and guys like flipping out of boats and stuff. It was pretty cool, and they did that every day. Like it was an everyday thing for those guys to get out there and run around in explosion stuff as part of the stunt show, the movie stunt show there. And I always kind of thought that, and I still do. I mean, they worked a lot harder than we did.
They did. Yeah, I remember the Dynamite Stunts thing. It was a really fascinating park, like a movie based, because with the thrill, like the thrill rides came later, but at the time it was a movie based studio lot, and that helped a lot with Nick being there and all the constant TV and film stuff going on at the time.
Yeah, Florida was, especially not really Florida, but Orlando in particular was popping off at that time for movie work and TV shows and stuff like that. I mean, the studios obviously were major, the primary contributing factor to that. Um, you also had a lot of outside production companies, Los Angeles and New York coming down, and I think that was before, actually it was. That was before Atlanta started to build up, the community. It was weird for like maybe 15 years. There were these three cities, Orlando, New Orleans, and Atlanta, fighting to become sort of the production capital of the East. I think eventually New Orleans won out. I think, but that was a good time for Orlando movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and the whole Hollywood East thing was really popping off, and it kind of slowed down when the new millennium started. It's not really as much constant film stuff going on there now. What do you think happened? Like, why do you think it sort of decreased, you know?
Um, it's funny, man. I'm not entirely sure what would have done it particularly in Orlando. I know what happened in Atlanta, and I'm assuming it's probably something along those lines. Like in Atlanta here, they didn't really fight and didn't really strive to sort of push the incentives out for Hollywood to come here and shoot. Like, and they did. Hollywood came here and shot, but I think administratively Atlanta just didn't really fight hard enough for that, and they ended up going to Louisiana. I think maybe at the time there was such a huge like mushroom of stuff happening at that point with both the studios opening right around the same time, neck and neck, and then you had Mickey Mouse Club shooting and doing stuff out there. Then you had Universal and us. We were out there, Nickelodeon's out there, you know. And I think maybe I don't know, maybe the city just didn't fight hard enough to keep the business there. I think maybe I can't think of anything else. I really can't. First my gut impression is that they thought it was going to stay there forever. Maybe they thought they didn't have to do anything to keep Hollywood there. And Hollywood's a fickle girl. If you don't fight to keep her, she's going to go someplace else, and she did.
Yeah. And so going back to your show, Welcome Freshmen, what was a typical day like being there at the studio and on set, basically?
Oh wow. I would get there in the morning. I lived about 25 minutes away from the studios, and I would get there. Drive to work in the morning, and I guess that was second. That would have been like the third season because I have my license then. So before that, the first season, my mom would drive me to work in the morning, and we would get there. We would eat a couple little whatever they have on their craft services table, usually Jolly Ranchers and donuts and stuff. Go through a table read, uh, where we would read the first draft of the script that or the script that they put out, and usually the difference between the first draft and the final shooting draft was there were two different shows. By the time all the rewrites came through and everything, there were two different shows. But we would go through a table read. We would have lunch. We would do blocking, which is uh, basically you go through. You're reading the lines, but not so much for performance, but for the technical crews, lighting and sound, so that the cameraman and the lighting guys know where you're going to be, for each particular scene and for each scene. So we would go out through blocking, and that was pretty fun. Blocking was cool because it gave you an opportunity to go through your lines and you could get them a little more solid in your head, but you didn't have to go through the work of performing them, which I didn't like doing. I didn't like rehearsing. I didn't like blocking. I didn't really like table reads. Yeah, I didn't like any of that stuff. It's sort of, I was much more comfortable just going straight to that and shooting it. Let's just shoot it because all of it is, you know, it can be trying. It can be trying, and I didn't have very much patience as a kid. And I think it really is any kid. It's hard to keep your kids focused. So for me, I would rather just go straight to the set. But that's how you do it. There's a process. Everybody has their process, and that's what we did.
Yeah, we had something in common, the short attention span,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, and one of the highlights of being there was the tour, the studio tour, the glass monitor coming up from up above. Like you got to interact with fans basically in a way. What was that like for you?
Every day. Yeah, every day. There were tours there. Some days, like of course, during the week, the tours they weren't as they weren't as crowded. Naturally the weekends were bigger, and then the summertime it was constant people. But that was also one of my favorite parts was interacting with the tours, man, just being seen, and they would get so excited. They come no matter what we're doing. If we're actually shooting a show or if we're just doing the blocking, and for me, I would think watching something like blocking is pretty boring because you don't get any performance out of it. There's no wardrobe. The sets aren't even really there or finished. But I think maybe people really enjoyed that sort of behind the scenes kind of thing, and we love playing with the toys. We love playing with the toys, especially. I remember when I watched Brock's interview, he made sure to point out that there were YT, what's up, man? Hit me up. Anyway, Kurtai. Um, we if there was a cute girl on the tour, we would act especially moronic just to get her attention and get her smiling and get her laughing. People were excited.
Yeah.
Fairly stupidly most of the time.
Yeah, Brock, he did say you guys were wild and crazy back then, but it's fun, I guess. It was all a good time, I must say. Do you remember other shows filming there?
Yeah, yeah. There was Clarissa filmed on the set across from us. I think we were on maybe I think there were stages were 17 and 18 maybe or maybe 18 and 19.
18, 18.
18 and 19, right? I
Yes.
think. Wow, you know more than you know more than I do. That's crazy. Yeah, so Clarissa shot across from us for a little while, and she was cool. I loved Melissa. We got along really well. I loved her mom. Her mom was awesome. They had a different. Of course, you guys know they had a different kind of format. The format of her show entirely was based around breaking the fourth wall, and she was really the central character. She was the anchor of that show. So she worked tirelessly. She worked incessantly. She really had a lot of work to do on the set. Like they really couldn't really do much without her. So she spent most of her time rehearsing and running through her lines. And we didn't get to hang out often. She, we it was a lot different with our show. We had 6, 7, 8 people at a time on our cast, like central characters on our cast, and that sort of that mitigates that mitigates a lot of the work that you have to do, and it mitigates a lot of the focus. It's spread out amongst the whole cast as opposed to everybody waiting for one person, to get you know what I mean, to get the shit. And it's all you're sort of carrying that, and that's kind of what she had to do. So that was, you know, we didn't get to hang out much. But what else? Let me see. 15 came down. Um, yeah, 15 came down. They were with us for a little while. They were a great show. They were a great cast. Great cast. We never got to work together, which I guess there would have been no possible way to do a Welcome Freshman 15 crossover. That was one of my dreams as a kid because I had a pretty deep crushes on a couple members of their cast. They had a lot of really cute girls on that cast, and I was familiar with everybody was familiar with who they were. 15 at that point was the only kid, one of the few kids soap opera kind of traumatic shows. There was that, and I think what else? Degrassi, maybe Degrassi Junior High. Uh,
Mm,
Yeah, we knew who they were when they came down to shoot with us, and we were all really cool. We were all really cool. So we could hang out and stuff, and They tried to stop it. They tried to stop us right yeah, but they couldn't keep us out. We got together eventually. And it was cool.
Yeah, it was strange. We did talk about that. The 15, they just banned you guys from talking to them. Like they were kind of isolated when they first came down there. Was it the same way when for like season 4 when they shot there? Still
No,
too.
no. At that point, like um, season four for us was strange. That was I mean, it was a good season. I think it was probably the best season out of the two where we started the new format. I was not a fan of the new format. I really wasn't. I liked the original format of the show. I think a lot of the fans preferred the original format of the show over the restructure after the second season. But season four, we were all pretty comfortable with where we were. Of course, Rick, Jocelyn, and I had been doing it for 4 years by then, so we were pretty well settled in, and it was probably the easiest season, the easiest, production wise, was probably the easiest season to shoot. Like at that point, we had we had a pretty solid chemistry between us, just between the three of us. And even then, when after the in the third season when we restructured and the new characters came in, at that point we were able to sort of make the transition. I think personally, but yeah, I guess for me, I preferred it the original way.
Yeah, that's really really nice. I was noticed about the change to it, and Bob Menthal, the executive producer, said the same thing about that. And it's funny because you guys did the whole sketching thing and whatnot, and that was pretty rare for kids performances at the time, and it was pretty popular with you guys and all that. But now there's not really whole lot of sketch comedies these days. So
They really aren't. They really aren't. I think maybe it might be sort of a response to people having, like we were saying earlier, shorter attention spans in general. I think the
mhm.
average span of a person has probably gotten shorter exponentially over the past 20 years. Because at this point, when you look at most social media and you look at the ways that we entertain ourselves and entertain each other, I mean, it's almost they're bites. It's all become like sort of news bites. You look at Twitter, you look at Instagram, and Snapshot and things like this, where you're offered these really super concentrated, very small pieces of communication or information. It's entertainment or it's news or anything, but it's just enough for you to get down in one bite and then move on to the next one. And I don't think that was necessarily the case, 15, 20 years ago, and probably prior to that. I think we sort of there was more of a trend towards uh, a more expansive format where things like variety shows and sketch comedies and things like that sort of had a stronger chance of staying alive.
Right. One particular thing I want to bring up is when you start with Get the Picture with you, Jocelyn, and Melissa and Sean. Yeah, when you found out about that, what was that? Was that fun to do?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. We didn't. I really enjoyed doing that because we didn't get to. I didn't get to do a lot of that stuff like with the show. I don't think our show did a lot of that kind of thing in general. And I definitely didn't get to do a lot of it, which I was always kind of pissed about Bob. Anyway, um, but that was really fun, man. That was a lot of fun. Like I love Jocelyn and I, and I think we won, man. I think we kicked their asses, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, actually.
Good time, man. And like playing around with Sean, like it was one of the few times where we got us, our cast got to get together and sort of, and do something together production wise, 'cause we really well.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you got to hang out with Melissa and Sean for the few times that you were there, the few times
Yeah,
that you got to hang out.
yeah, yeah. There were some points where we did have times like down times together, and we could sort of, we could chill, like because that's all we did. Was if we weren't working, we were screwing around. We tutored, because we were out of school at that point, and so we had our blocks in the day where we get there in the morning, and then we would have to do a certain amount of required hours of tutoring to meet the educational requirements so that we could be okay with, so that the school system would be okay with us being out of school. So, and she had the same sort of setup. So there were times where we had these blocks of downtimes and we could hang out and do things, together like that. But yeah, it was very cool. Like the people that you meet and the sort of relationships that work scenario engenders. I mean, it's like a family sort of. It's and we were, we just got really close and we were like siblings. There was fighting and there was triumph and loss and happiness and tears. It was like a feel good movie of the year kind of stuff.
Right. And the host, Michael O'Malley, he's still awesome today. He was really awesome back then. What was he like? I mean, I don't know if you got to talk to him off set, but he hosted Guts a year later too.
They produce, like making that show. So that's, I mean, that's what you do. You have these, you're shooting the show, and like maybe something will go wrong. Like there'll be, I don't know, whatever, a boom in the shot or something like that, or some sort of technical difficulty, or somebody will screw up a line that happens all the time. But and then you have these little moments in between shots or whatnot where you can hang out and talk. And Mike was very cool. That was that was his show, so he was comfortable. It was cool to see him. I always kind of enjoy that when watching other people's productions and stuff. When you see someone who's comfortable doing what they're doing because they've been doing it for a while, and he made us comfortable. Like it was, because it was kind of it was a little bit step out of what we were doing, even though it was all for fun and it was charity and whatnot. Production was a little bit different from what it was a lot different actually from what we did on our show. So he made it easy to make that transition. You know. We had a good time. But I remember before it started, Jocelyn and I were talking about how it was, you know, it was really important to win. Like we need to win. We're gonna have to win. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It's all fun and games, but we need to win. so so we had to do that. So Jocelyn, I remember that and I appreciate it. And anytime we ever have to get the picture again, I got you with me, and then we'll do it.
Cross his fingers. We need more game shows back, anyways. Yeah. But one of the things I want to talk about is, I always hear positive stories about the staff at the studio, how great everyone were. From your experience, how great were all the people who worked there?
The what? I'm sorry.
How were all the people who worked there? What were they like? They were great people.
They were great. These are people who, like, when you talk about staff and crew, like makeup and lighting and food service and stuff like that. These are the people that actually make productions happy. Like you had us, and we're actors, and actors are actors. I mean, obviously you can't do it without actors. Well, actually you can now, but back then you couldn't really do it without actors. And but even then, like we wouldn't have been able to do anything that we could do without these people. And they were there every day, and they saw us at our best, and they saw us at our worst, and they were patient with us. And it would you had your little bickering every now and then, because that's how it goes when you spend enough time around somebody. You spend a lot of time around the same people every day. You have that. More than anything else, it was easy. It was like a kind of family type thing. Like the kids in the GAT kitchen and the lighting guys, and just it was just really cool. Everybody was very, very, very easy to work with. And again, I hope if any of them see this, very, very patient with us. Very,
Right.
very patient with us. I imagine they would have had to be. They wouldn't have worked any other way.
Right, right. I know that. We talked about that. And the Yak Kitchen, where you guys can make the slime, the Yak happen. Were you ever slimed at one point? Have you ever been slimed?
Hmm. No, I don't think I've ever been slimed. I don't think so. I've played with slime, and it's fun. It's very fun. I would, if I'm pushing 40 now, so I would still play with slime if it was if it was there. It's just cool stuff. But I never actually got the opportunity to be slimed, and I'm kind of upset about that. I'm a little bitter. I would have liked to do that. That's like one of the few regrets I have about working on the show, is that I never got to be slimed. So,
Yeah, I think every kid dreams of being slimed at one point. That was something that Nickelodeon made popular back then, and still does today.
kind of, it was. Nickelodeon was iconic. It was the first of its kind. And when they started, they sort of. I was a kid when Nickelodeon started, and I remember watching Nickelodeon when I was a kid. I remember watching Danger Mouse and Pinwheel. Although I didn't really like Pinwheel because it seemed like it was no matter what time it came on, it was going to be on for the next 4 hours. Was going to be Pinwheel, But there were so many shows, and then we just, as kids, we didn't have anything like that, so it was really exciting. And then the more it started to grow and get popular, and it became clear that there was a definite market for this kind of thing, and that kids, we wanted it and we would support it, and we did. You know, you didn't really have any TV wasn't very considerate of children at the time. I think it's because Hollywood is run by money. So they just, I think, in the bottom, ultimately they just didn't know that the money was there. They didn't know that you could do that until Nickelodeon came out. And it's one of the things that Nick made popular was, and it made possible. This entire.
Yeah, it was really popping. I was a kid watching it. And the Nicktoons, like Rugrats and all that stuff, it was definitely a good time to watch all those things, you know?
I did. I love Rugrats. I watched most of the Nicktoons. I liked Roundhouse, and they shot with us for a little while, like on our stage or whatnot. All that. Uh,
Keenan and Kel.
yeah.
Yeah, the good times, good times. And speaking of your casting, do you still talk to any of them today?
Oh yeah. I talked to Brock. I wouldn't say frequently, but regularly. Brock and I speak at least 3 times a year, and we used to be much much you know tighter than. I mean, I guess we're still that tight, but as people move on, they grow up, and then you develop another life. You get married. Like, well, I didn't get married, but he got married. um, Great girl. He's got two gorgeous kids, and you see, you sort of go on and start living your life. But we talk, and I actually, thanks to you, and I have to say thank you because it wouldn't have happened any other way. I got in touch with Dave Roden. Dave. I don't know, Dave, who's, I guess, Wolverine now, but I got to get a chance, to get in touch with him, and we spoke for a really long time and got to catch up and things. He's actually going to be in Orlando pretty soon. I told him I would try and see if I could connect with him. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get down there, so but I try to keep in touch as much as possible. Rick, we kept in touch for a pretty long time. When I was out living in LA, which was, I think it was right before we moved out there. So yeah, yeah, we do keep in touch, and it'll always be. I know, particularly with like with Brock and I, for instance, it's always the same. Like if we get together, and no matter we're instantly 16, 17 years old again, running around like idiots, like just instantly transported back to that. It's kind of like this timeless bubble that happens in your life where you might not necessarily think about it all that often, but when you do, it doesn't age.
Right.
Old, it doesn't really fade. Like I can remember these things pretty clearly.
Yeah, although it was a long time ago, it almost comes back to you when you think about it, like, oh my damn, I really did all that stuff. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think about it often. It's we were talking about it the other night. It's like another life almost. I kind of feel like it was another life that happened to another person. You know, there was this sort of, at least for me, there was this constant sort of disconnect between myself and what I was doing. Where I didn't really think of myself in the terms that say for instance the fans thought of me as, or even some of or to some extent the other people in production. I didn't think of myself as a star, or even really that much as a professional actor. It just, I always, because I had fun with it. I had fun doing what I was doing, and I sort of always thought of it in that sense. Like, this is just something really fun that I was lucky enough to be good at, I guess, at the time, or lucky enough to have people think I was good at it. And so that's sort of how I looked at it. That was probably one of the more difficult things for me to get my head wrapped around, was when people would see us and just and like they would just freak out, and I never really understand it. I'd be like, wow, I'm just.
Was that the reason why you wanted to move on from acting? Because you were like, I have other things I want to do in my life. This is not something I want to do full time, you know?
No, I didn't. it's funny. I never, like I said, I wasn't. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a truck driver.
Mhm.
If you would have asked me when I started acting what I'm gonna be when I grow up, I would have said I'm gonna be a race car driver. No doubt. This is just something I'm doing. You know. But as I started working and became that, got to become a professional actor, I kind of developed an appreciation for it, for the actual craft of it. I started to really kind of get into that. Eventually, yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know what happened. I think I just moved on.
Right.
It's strange. Sometimes you don't really notice things until after they happen. You look back, you're like, oh wow, that just happened. And sometimes I kind of look at that experience that in the same way sometimes. I think, wow, that happened. Like we did that. That happened. That was something real. And when, you know, every now and then when I meet someone who is aware of it, or fan of the show, like, or someone like yourself who's you know sort of take the responsibility to articulate that and show that this meant something to somebody, that really blows me away that it was, that people were affected by it in any way, much less like positive. Know that can be
Uh,
now that I think
I'm losing your mic for a second. Like you go kind of off for a second. Your voice though. But I think you're
oh,
back now.
here. Is this any better? Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Yes,
All
I
right.
can hear you. All right, perfect. I can hear you now. All right. Yeah, I was just about to say that all these shows, the '90s thing, Welcome Freshmen, like, it's made such a positive impact on folks. I mean, that makes you feel like happy, I must say.
Yeah, it does, man. I remember Jocelyn got involved with this little girl, uh, and we did a sort of like a charity event for her in Satellite Beach. And uh, like, Get the Picture was also for charity too, but that was sort of an anonymous thing. You know what I mean? It was very cool. We had a lot of fun shooting it, but it's one of those things where, all right, yeah, you won such and such amount of money for charity, and you know it's going to go to a good cause, and that's cool. Um, but this was more of a personal thing where we got to go out to Satellite Beach. We got to meet this little girl and meet her parents and her family and her friends, and sort of have a more intimate interaction with, I guess. I mean, you don't really want to call it a cause because it's a person, but you get to have a more intimate interaction with the person that you're helping on a one-on-one basis. And that was kind of sobering, to tell you the truth. Like I was sort of nervous about going out there to do that because that was a serious thing, and I was not at all a serious kid. You know what I mean? So that kind of made me nervous because I didn't want to go out there and end up falling short of anybody's expectations, particularly someone who was in a situation where they could be facing the end of their life, and where my interaction actually represents something meaningful, as opposed to you know being the guy that a couple of kids are going to watch on TV, which is awesome. That's great. But this is actually, what you're doing is now attached to something, and to a person who's looking at a set of circumstances that is just, I can't even explain it. That sort of made me nervous. That was kind of sobering, but it was great just to see the impact and to see that we can actually affect something positive, you know, and for whatever it was worth, to sort of lift somebody's spirits, and, like, there's something to smile about in a situation that you might not have a lot to smile about, you know.
Yeah.
So that was.
And all the autographs and pictures, that just adds on to everything. Like we talked about before, the fans coming up to you in the park. And I remember you got mobbed one time at some mall, the shopping mall, right?
Yes, the Altamont Springs Mall. Yes, my mom and I had gone shopping, uh, and it was after the first season. It was after the first season had wrapped, so maybe 2 or 3 months after the first season had wrapped. So the show had aired, and I remember when the show went on the air. Joe Setter lived. maybe 5 minutes away from me in Orlando. So my mom and I went over to Jill's house and hung out with her and her mom, and we watched the show. And it was very cool. It was very small. It was just the four of us, but we were all really excited because I think Jill had worked professionally before the show. She'd done a lot of commercials and stuff. But for both of us, it was our first TV show, and we were just really, we were kids, like excited to see our own show come on TV. So we did that there, and maybe 2 or 3 months after it aired, um, we went to the mall. I went to the mall with my mom to go shopping, and we got mobbed in the food court. We got mobbed in the food court. I don't know, there were 700, maybe 1,000 people. They had to call the cops to come take us out. It was my mother was terrified, terrified. I think she's still pissed at me about that today, if I'm not mistaken. Because you get to a point to where you can spot it happening, and you see one person looking at you, and they're looking and they're looking, and hey, isn't that whatever, isn't that Kevin from Welcome Freshmen? It's Orlando was such a small town that, and people in the city were used to seeing us around, I guess. So it hadn't gotten to a point, at least for me, where I realized how big the show had become. Evidently, the show blew up pretty quickly, like pretty fast, because within that first 3 months, we got there, and it was a mob scene. They were screaming, and like some of them were crying and jumping up and down, and it went from autographs. Can I have your autograph? Could you take a picture with me? Can I have a hug? Can I touch you? And it's just, I mean, I wasn't really. I guess I was too young to be afraid, but my mom was terrified. She thought they were going to tear us apart, and I guess that was when I learned that if without you know preventative measures, little girls will tear you apart. Little girls will absolutely love you to pieces. So you have to be careful.
Rock star life, man. That's what it is.
It was for a second. It was rockstar life for a second.
Yeah. Also, do you mind explaining what have you been up to these days? I think everyone wants to know.
Let me see. It's been wow. I had to catch up 20 something years. Bounced around a couple of cities, hung out. I started bartending, which was cool. I liked bartending. It was fun. It was easy, and I got to work at a party, which is that was like my number one priority for a pretty long time, was to be able to work, was to be able to have a good time doing what I'm doing. And then about a year ago, I started working offshore in the oil industry. So I work on vessels now in the middle of the ocean. I work on the boats that bring supplies to oil rigs. So I'm not actually on the oil rig. I'm on the boats, which I prefer. I love the ocean. I love working on the ocean. Um, I like the job. It's quiet. It's peaceful out there. It's beautiful, and your phone doesn't ring off the hook all the time. And then I get even time off, so I get about half of the year off, where I can just do whatever. So a lot of times I'll come up to Atlanta. I work and live out in New Orleans, but when I'm off, I'll come up to Atlanta and hang out with my family, just hang out with my friends. As you know, today, like sleep until maybe 2, trying that kind of thing. I'm on vacation. I'm doing a part-time job here now, like helping a friend of mine that runs a crew down at the Paramount downtown. So I'm helping them do like trade show setup and stuff like that, which is cool. It's easy stuff that you don't have to think about, and make a little side money on the side, which is nice, and that's about it. Yeah.
That is so cool. And I like the ocean too. Is it by the beach, the oiling industry that you work in?
No, no, it's not even close to the beach, which kind of sucks because my entire family's Jamaican. I grew up going back and forth to the island all the time, so I'm used to it. And then, Florida has gorgeous beaches also, so I'm used to enjoying the beaches. And there are no beaches in Louisiana. It's you know, yeah, not like that. We're typically operating like 100 to 150 miles off the coast, um, maybe 500 to 1,000 feet of water, that kind of thing. So it's not really a beach type of setup like that, but it is almost vacation because you're on a boat. you know, a song, I guess.
Darn it. All right. Yeah. And speaking of all the memories you have, do you have a particular favorite behind the scenes memory? I mean, I'm sure the fans' mom of you not is not one of them, but do you have a favorite one though?
That's funny enough, getting mobbed was one of my favorites. That was kind of yeah. I liked being seen, and I liked the attention. I did like that. I can't lie about that. So that was fun. But let me see a favorite behind the scenes moment. Wow, there were so many of them. There really wasn't. Okay, well, when we actually that's not true. When we wrapped, when the show was entirely done wrapping at the end of the fourth season, for some reason that escapes me now, Brock and I took it upon ourselves to strip down to our boxer shorts and run around the set like squirting people with whipped cream, which was, and I don't know why. I still don't know why, but like it was just it was fun, and we got Bob, we got you, Bob. It was on the tape. It's on the tape, so and those were probably the moments, any one of those where you might be on the set and you're shooting, but you're not in the shot. You can't be seen. So we spent a lot of time screwing each other up, trying to make each other laugh because it was like a game. It was like, all right, oh, you got me. You got me. That's cool. Now we got to do this over again. That's pretty funny. But, as soon as it's your turn, as soon as your turn, it's no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. So,
Goodness. You're in for a surprise, but I actually have that picture. Jocelyn sent it to me.
picture of what?
You guys is squirting around on set with Bob and the boxer shorts. I have yes, Jocelyn did send that to me.
Yeah, that's one of the things you don't think about is having photographic evidence later on.
Yeah, because she sent me a bunch of them. It was really nice, the photos, but but it's all. But just two more questions. But the Nick Studios, it was gone. It was replaced by Blue Man Group now, and so many
Really?
people miss it. Like they just want to see some live action, good entertainment, some passionate people about Nick. Would you like to see it reopen one day, Nick Studios?
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. I didn't even know we got replaced. Like Nick was replaced by the Blue Man Group. Are you serious?
Yes, it is. Stage 18 right
Blue
now.
Man Group sucks. like, I mean, that wouldn't be. That kind of hurts my feelings, man. Like, I mean, it sucks to be replaced or that they shut down. But at least if you're gonna replace us with the friggin' Blue Man Group. Like, really, that's not horrible. That's horrible. That's like it's like getting replaced by Celine Dion or something. Jesus. I'm just.
I've never
No, I
seen it.
in the studios pick up and do something down there with it. It was such a great resource. Yeah, it was a great resource, a great talent pool. There's so many talented people in Orlando. You know, never really got the chance to sort of develop themselves, or even the production culture never really got a chance to develop out there. It blew up and it mushroomed for a hot second, and then it sort of died away. Nickelodeon was a central part of that. Universal and MGM were a central part of that. And I think it would just be great to see Nickelodeon open up and bring it back down there because it's there. And people when it was there, people enjoyed it and we used it, and it was good. It was a good thing. So it would be good to see them do something with it again. You know, that would be great. I would love to see that. Yeah. Bring back Hanna Barbera.
Yeah, too, man. We need some, all those movie-based stuff is disappearing from the park now. It's all thrill rides and stuff, which is fun, but there's something about feeling like you're a star, being in an actual film lot.
Be a part of the production, which is something that Mix Studios gave to regular kids and gave to regular people to be able to see, not even just watch the production happen, but to be able to feel like you're a part of it and to be, you know, just a part of that sort of magic, because it is kind of even as an actor or as a director, as a writer, as a person involved with production professionally, in some sense you lose a little bit of that magic because, like we were talking about before, you see it from you're sort of watching it happen, you're experiencing it from the other side of the curtain. But for a person who's not involved with it in that sense, that was a unique opportunity to sort of become part of that for a moment. And I think that was really cool, man. I think if you offered that again, people would probably still want that. I don't know. I think that's a large part of why we watch movies. Why we go to the movies and go to amusement parks and places like Universal Studios because we want to feel connected to that. We want to feel like we're a part of it. And sort of it gave kids the opportunity to do that hands on, and that's cool, man. They should have kept it.
Yes. And what do you think that made it so great and special, the studio, being a part of that?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, I think there were a lot of things that made the studio special, but I think in particular, at the time, there wasn't anything else that gave people that opportunity. So unique in that sense. I mean, you could go to Disney World and you could do the Disney thing, and that's what it is. And you could go to Busch Gardens and do the Busch Gardens, and that's what that is. You know what I mean? But and they both hold that there were other structures, I guess, like that at the time that held certain characteristics of it, but nothing really made it about the experience as much as Universal and Nick Studios at the time. You know what I mean? And you could go there as a regular person and become a part of it, and you couldn't really do that anywhere else. That was unique, and I think it's part of what made it like a sort of a magic kind of place.
Yes, and the people who worked there, they were just so passionate about bringing the kids to the shows, and the smiles on kids' faces, that was a bonus to it too, seeing you guys there.
It was awesome. It was awesome to have people come through the tour, and they look down, and for a second it was kind of dark down there, and they're looking around to see who's there, and they might see people pushing a camera, or they might see people carrying crafts or stuff, and then you sort of see it on their face. They recognize, oh my God, that's Alex from Welcome Freshmen, because we're not in makeup and we're not lit, and there's no, you know what I mean? Like, unless we're in production, you don't really know that it's us, especially if we're just rehearsing. We're just wearing our normal clothes, and we just look like normal people, and then you see them recognize who we are, and they just, they go nuts. They would just go nuts. It was great. It was great. Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to create this documentary, just to hear your stories and see that, the studio brought a lot of magic and charm, and it has so many great things going for it. And it would be nice to see it come back one day. And you're like interview number 68 now, so yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. When Brock told me that you were doing this, it was a surprise. I didn't know that there was anyone out there you know that was carrying it on. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that it might have been that people have pretty much kind of put it down, and it really wasn't until I'd spoken to you at length and you kind of let me know that there was sort of this kind of demand sort of out there for to find out what happened and where we were and what we were doing, and that it's just it means a lot to me. It really does, and I have to thank you for doing it, because I didn't know that I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, I knew then at the time, but now it was like you don't think about it like that. You don't think of it as being part of somebody's life when you're doing it, because it's like your job. And so to find out, to have, especially now you're putting this project together, and you put so much work into it, and I can see that you're passionate about it, and that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I wish we could have had you around when we were doing it. You would have been an asset. You would have been a definite asset for that. You know.
Thank you. Thank you. And the other guy that I told you about, the Matthew Clickstein, he's really passionate. He wrote that book and he interviewed like over 200 people. So he's another person who's willing to bring this golden age back.
But I am going to get it. I'm going to get it and read it, man. Like, I never thought that people were still thinking about it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And one last thing, there needs to be a reunion, a Welcome Freshman reunion. There's so many things that all that did in the past, and Wild and Crazy Kids, Salute Your Shorts. They had like reunions, reunion convention centers. It would be great to for one for Welcome Freshmen.
Yeah, you know what? I would drop what I'm doing at any point if somebody said that they were doing that. That would be great. I would love to see everybody again. Rock and I were talking about that. Like, how are we gonna? We gotta get together again. Like, we get together, every now and then. But just to have all of us together in one place would be great. But I don't know. That might be difficult. They tried to control us when we were kids, and they couldn't do it. I doubt they can do it now.
I'm planning. Hey.
And maybe if we get Bob involved, like, because we listen to Bob, so maybe even now as grown-ups, we'll still listen to Bob.
Oh yeah. Darn it. Get that. Stop fooling around, Chris.
All day, all day. Bob, I miss you. Tim, I miss you. I love you guys. Paul Tarasio, Phil Galata, I miss you. I love you guys, man. Like, there were so many people. They were family. They were our family for such a long time, and we were so close for so long, and we all kind of shared this thing that we made. That was special. It was special, and I didn't, in the moment, you don't really think of it that way. You think, yeah, this is just what you're doing, and it's fun. You're having a great time, We had a ball. I mean, we had a ball with everybody out there, with Melissa. We had a great time with the kids from 15, and then that's what you're doing. You're working, but you're having a great time. But I think the idea that it might really be something special, something truly special, sort of escapes you in the moment. It's something, I guess, that's easier to see when you look back, you know. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it now. It's like, wow, this really was something special, you know. And that's I like that. That's kind of cool, man. That's it's nice to think that I was a part of something like that.
Definitely, definitely. I agree. It's like I said, it makes such an impact. But Chris, I really have to thank you for talking to me today. It's really been fun, man, and the phone conversations we've had and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
really been awesome.
yeah, it's been great, man. Thank you so much for getting in touch with me. Thank you for spending the time to do this, man. This is, like I said, it means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to everyone else. Like Brock and I have talked about it. We've talked about you and how cool it is that you're doing this, and I just want to say thank you, man. And it's a pleasure. And if you ever need anything again, hit me up. I'll be around. And if we do happen to get the reunion, we're gonna make sure you're coming through, man. You're gonna have to be there. You're gonna have to be there.
Thanks, man. I will definitely do that. Thanks, no problem. All right, I'm gonna let you go now. I gotta go, man.
All right, man. Do your thing. Tell everybody I said hi. Stay up, man.
All right, cool. Talk to you later, man.
All right, man. I'll see you later.